everybody. Welcome. It's episode 63, and Ed Chat and Chew is on for another week. I'm Diane. This is
Micah.
And always with us is...
Hi, everyone. It's Mike.
And, Mike's had a pretty adventurous month. I'm just going to put that out there. And today we're going to talk about his experiences while he was at the Global Teacher Prize. And then we have just 5 more days, or I guess it's 4 at this point, for you to register for Awesome Squiggles. Mike, I don't know if you've checked the map lately.
I have not. No, so fill me in. How many do we have?
We're almost at 200.
Nice.
And we actually now have registrations from Australia, New Zealand. We had a couple from Egypt pop in. It's pretty awesome. I'm just going to say. And several Canadian friends. So hello to all of our Canadian friends as well. We're glad to have you on the Awesome Squiggles. But, Micah, what would you like to ask Mike about his trip to Dubai?
What can I not ask him? Oh my goodness. I'm sure there were many moments, but what was the most inspirational moment where you were just so proud to be a teacher?
Yeah, it is. There was a lot of moments, and that's tough to put my finger on. But when I got over to Dubai, the first 2 days was spent at the Varkey Teacher Ambassador Summit. So basically, they took the top 50 finalists from last year and this year, and out of those 100, they got as many of us together as we could in a school outside of Dubai, in the desert. And so there was about 55 to 60 of us from all around the world, and you couldn't help but feeling proud of being a teacher, being around that group of Edu Awesome. It was one of the most spectacular groups I've ever been involved in. And one of the striking things to me, I think the teachers need to rule the world, because we had every major religion, Christians, Jews, Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, all working together, and there was no tension, no animosity, no strife. It was nothing but teachers just looking to do good things for students and elevate the teaching profession. And that was pretty inspirational. And then getting to know the 10 finalists during the Global Education and Skills Forum before we were up on stage was pretty special. I tried to attend as many of their master classes as I could to learn about what they're all about. And those are just some spectacular individuals. They're just great people in addition to being great teachers. So I just tried to soak it up as much as I could.
So tell me about these master classes. Explain that a little more.
Yeah, so what they did, they wanted the education ministers and the policymakers who were at the Global Education and Skills Forum to understand why we were finalists. And so what they did is they gave each of us a half hour to teach a class about what we do, to share our philosophy of teaching and what we do in our classroom with those different policymakers. Because my application was basically written on global service learning, I knew there was no way I was going to be able to pull off a global service learning experience in 15 minutes, because we had to leave some time for questions at the end. So what I did was I gave a rationale and the educational research, the neuroscience behind why I do what I do for the first 2 or 3 minutes. Talked about the area that I'm in and why it's important for my kids. And then I took them on a learning journey that my 4th graders went on over the past couple of years, starting with the project in which they were trying to stop child labor in Asia and Africa and partnering with kids in India, through the distance teaching project where we were using short form video to teach mathematical concepts with the materials that we had that kids in the Kavira slum didn't have, through Project Link, and now to the Mukuni Bridge project, where we're trying to replace that bridge in Africa so that kids can go to school. So I tried to just take everyone who was in that room on that emotional journey, and there were tears. There were definitely people crying, and people who felt what my students felt throughout that process. And I think I got them. I think I made them understand exactly why global service learning is so powerful, and why it builds those emotional connections for the learner. But as much as I enjoyed that process, every one of the other master classes was totally unique. All of us are doing totally different things, but all of us are having an incredible impact on students. And so I think every chance that I had to go and experience that from the other teachers was just a special moment.
So I think we need to take on a little virtual tour of some of these other master classes. What do you think? So which country should we hit first?
Let's hit the winner.
Yeah. So she went first and I went last in the master classes. So I went into Hanan's master class because I told her this, and maybe this is bad to say because I don't want to but I talked to Hanan before her masterclass, and she was a little bit nervous, and she was, getting her stuff ready. And I said to her, Hanan, I just want you to know that, after looking at all of the videos and reading all the applications, if I had a vote, I would vote for you. So I actually told her that, 2 days before the announcement came. And then I was in her masterclass, and she asked for volunteers to play a game that she had, because her whole philosophy is teaching nonviolence through games. So she had a math game up there, and she was looking for volunteers. So, my hand shot up, and I ended up, there's some video out there on the internet if you want to look it up, of me running around in a suit jacket, hanging socks on a wall with the answers to different math problems. But that was a lot of fun. She's just absolutely incredible, and you can't be around Hanan without feeling the love that she has for her country, for the teaching profession, and for the kids that she's working with to try and pull them out of that violent situation that they're living in and have them see that there's a better way to do things.
Okay, so you played math games with Hanan. Mm-hmm. Let's go to Australia.
So Robin, she also kind of took a different approach to her masterclass, and she works with the children of sex workers in the red light district of Mumbai, and she is just an absolutely amazing person. All of us kind of have that. We try and let go of the things we can't control, and give it over to a higher power and let things kind of go the way they're supposed to go. But I don't know. I can't speak for anyone else, but I know sometimes I have trouble with that. Sometimes I want to control things more than I should. Robin has that mastered. She just has a way of being able to see the world for what it is, and to let things go where they're supposed to, and to find the best in every situation. She actually brought her girls with her. I think 12 of them were able to come and spend some time in Dubai. When she landed, she didn't even know what hotel she was staying in. But she said, it'll all work out. And it did, and her kids ended up spending time at the water park and going out into the desert. And just as I believe that, when we travel, we're able to take the best parts of every culture and incorporate them into ourselves. I think Robin believes that for her students also, and she was able to, take them all kinds of different places around the world, and she gets, airlines to sponsor their flights, and people who believe in her mission to, pay for hotel rooms and food, and and so her girls kind of have that experience. But more important than that, she's teaching those girls that they have a future when so many people have kind of tossed them away and tried to convince them that they don't. And she's just doing incredible things with them. And, I was so inspired after listening to her story. I just wanted to spend more time around her, trying to soak that up, even after her masterclass. And my mother fell in love with her also. My mother was over there with me. And, my mother and her hit it off pretty well.
And where is she based?
She's teaching in the red light district of Mumbai.
So she's not Australian. She's in India.
Oh, yeah. Did you say Australia? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went to India instead of Australia. We went to India.
So let's go down under this time.
Okay. So Richard is also a elementary science teacher. So that was kind of neat to see. And we have totally different things that we're doing in different philosophies. He does a lot with 3D printing, and he has this incredible STEM lab where he's got all kinds of stuff. One of the stories that he told is how there was a celebration in his school. I don't remember exactly what the celebration was, but he wanted every kid to have kind of an award, right? So he wanted it 3D printed, and he wanted it to look just like it was an old British World War I or World War II medal. But he couldn't find that medal to be able to replicate. And there happened to be someone in, I don't know, if it was Iowa or Indiana or Illinois, that had the 3D model of this medal from Great Britain that was already scanned in. So his kids went and used it and printed it out, with their 3D printer, and realized it was too big. So then they had to go ahead and take the whole thing and scale it using the, program it down and scale it so that it could be the size that every kid could pin on their chest, and then adapt it for their school. So that was just one of the stories of the incredible things that he's doing.
Very nice. Okay. Where else?
Okay.
Yeah, the UK.
Yeah, Colin's a really cool guy. I got to know Colin. I got to know Colin really well, and I don't think that he realized that my background was in math teaching. When I won the presidential award, even though I'm a science teacher now, I won it for teaching math. And he teaches high school kids, and I'm obviously an elementary teacher. But we had a lot of discussions before his master class about the need for kids to understand mathematics conceptually and to see it as something that's creative and beautiful, rather than the way to find an answer to some problems on a paper. But what Colin has done, it started a couple years ago. One of his students came up to him and said, my father's sick and I'm going to miss some school and I'm afraid of falling behind in my studies. What can you do for me? And so Colin spent thousands of hours in his kitchen making math videos to help his kids through the class. And the videos were so good that other people started watching them also. They were on YouTube. And now, I don't know, millions and millions of kids all over the UK and all over the world have used these videos to help him. And, he gets, almost weekly messages from people, thank you, Mr. Hegarty. You saved my life as a student. I never thought I could do maths until it's plural because he's in the UK. I never thought that I could do maths until I saw your videos. So he talked a lot about why he put that together, but his understanding of what we are as teachers was kind of special. I can't remember some of the quotes that he used, but I remember just nodding my head through the entire his entire class and saying, yes, like that. Someone needs to bottle that up and share it with all teachers because that's just so empowering. But he's a pretty amazing guy.
Okay, Finland.
I sat next to Marit a lot because alphabetically we were we're right next to each other. So I sat between Kaz from Japan and Marit in most of the places that we were. Marit is also a math teacher, and she's got a very problem-based approach to what she does in math class. Hold on one second. Sorry.
That's okay. How amazing would it have been to be there with all those folks?
Go Miami, right?
Go Miami.
So Marit has a very problem-based approach to the way that she teaches mathematics to her. I believe she teaches like sixth graders, so not a whole lot older than what I have here. And she also has created this Paths to Math program online that helps kids almost use manipulatives online to understand the mathematical concepts that she's teaching in class. And so like she had us in her masterclass manipulating different blocks into different ways to see how many different patterns we could make using that number of blocks. And I was waiting for it. We didn't quite get there because she only had like 15 or 20 minutes like I did. But I was waiting for us to take that and then say, okay, what's the function that we're, let's bring it into algebra and say, okay, how do we represent this as a function, and then graph it or whatever, which I'm sure is where it would have gone, if we had more time. But it was cool to kind of just play with math and see the creativity in it.
Awesome. Okay, one last stop. Japan.
Yep. Yeah, so actually I wasn't in Kaz's section because I got pulled out to do an interview. But he's, I thought from watching his video, he talked a lot about the Lego space elevator that he built and how he uses Legos in class. So I kind of assumed wrongfully that he was doing a lot of STEM kind of stuff in his classroom with Legos because that's how I've seen Legos being used. But actually he's a language arts teacher. And he was using those Legos as a basis for building writing assignments and getting kids really interested in what they were doing so that they would write about it, which I thought was a really cool approach. And I know, Diane, I remember a couple years ago at ISTE, you're the one that introduced me to the Lego, was the Story Makers?
Lego Story Starters.
Where Story Starters, yeah. So where kids are, actually building language arts lessons. And I think Kaz was just kind of doing that on his own. He was just using Legos as the basis to, create story starters without the actual Lego program. But Lego had a really big presence at the conference. They actually had a big outdoor pavilion where you could go and play with Legos. And I know they were really interested to talk to him because of some of the things that he was doing in class. So my experience with that Lego forum, I went there. It was really hot out, so I didn't spend a whole lot of time there because it was outside. But I went there and they had badges where you could create a little Lego minifigure and put it on your badge. So I went and I created a little girl scientist with a laptop and, she had a scientist shirt on or whatever.
Oh,
and I went to take it away. And the guy was like, no, that's a girl. You can't have that. And I was like, even girls can science. And I took it and I put it on the badge and walked away. But,
Even girls can science.
So were there other vendors besides Lego there?
It wasn't that kind of conference. Lego was really there putting on a presentation to show you how you could, it was more like a ongoing session. In addition to the other stuff that was on there, it wasn't really like a vendor kind of space. This was unlike any other educational conference that I've ever been to before. It was really made up of policymakers and teachers. It was us as the finalists and, people who really had a chance to shape and influence policy. And then there was a lot of other people there that were kind of, as school administrators that, in the Middle East, or, there were a couple people who were from nonprofit organizations or NGOs who kind of fit in different places, but it wasn't really like the things that we were discussing were so far above what normally goes on in, like the ISTEs and the other educational conferences. It was debates on like, the debate on standardized testing wasn't based on like what goes on in classrooms or the American education system. It was like, what are the countries that are doing well educationally, and what are the countries that aren't, and how do we compare them if we don't have standardized tests? Like it was like, the 90,000 foot view rather than the 30,000 foot view. I mean, it was way up there. And one of the things that really struck me, and I wrote this in the blog post that I put up last night, there is not consensus over why we go to school. And I don't know that anyone's really talking about this, but the reasons that I think that school is important are not at all the reasons that other people think that school is important when we're taking that really large view. They were talking about economic reasons and, things having to do with national education systems and why we need education on a national level. And, I believe the reason that we send kids to school is because we need to give them the tools to be happy in life and to, to be successful in whatever it is that they want to accomplish and to make the world better. And, that just wasn't there. I think people that are on the outside of education, not working with kids every day, lose focus of that's why we're doing what we do. That's why people become teachers. And I think that's one of the real problems that we have in elevating the teaching profession is people don't understand why we're teachers, why we chose the profession. It's not because we want kids to be economically successful down the road. It's because we just want them to be successful down the road, in whatever it is that they believe that to be. If there's a kid that's an artist, we want them to be the most successful artist that they can be. We want to take that talent and bottle it up and make sure that they can, be happy when they're older. And that was something that was missing there.
Yeah. But, I think that's something that when you get outside of the teacher conversation, you forget the humanity of education.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say that's true for everyone, but it definitely seems to be diminished because we're all worried about data and the success of how one is competing over another. But if we stop and remember, this is a human field. You have to remember that these are little humans that we are working with every day. So I'm glad that you brought that forward.
Yeah, I think that's
the same. Your other teacher finalists said the same.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And one of the things that most impressed me about this conference, right? So you've got these education ministers and heads of state, and really when we talk about policymakers at the highest level are sitting in a place of prominence in the auditorium, right next to teachers who are sitting in just as prominent a position. You've got the finalists that are right there, right next to them. And I don't know of any other place in the world where that happens. And our opinions were valued. I mean, I was in a lot of the debates where it was, Andreas Schleicher from OECD, like probably the most influential guy in education in the world, was debating a teacher from Sierra Leone. Like they were equals in that room, and that's how it should be. But there's not a whole lot of places where that happens. So that was something that was special that I think was really excellent.
Did the U.S. Department of Ed have representation?
Arnie Duncan was there, but not anyone from the current Department of Education that I saw.
Okay, so John King wasn't there.
No, he was definitely not.
Okay, but still, Arnie there, that's a voice. That's good.
Yeah. And the person I was most excited to meet, I love Fareed Zakaria. I love his take on education, and I've heard him speak before. And so he had a Meet the Mentor session, and I went to it, and it was just too hot. It was outside, and my master class was coming up, and I didn't want to be soaked in sweat for my master class, so I skipped it, and I didn't get to meet him there, so I was a little disappointed. But then boarding my plane to New York on the way home, who was there waiting by the jetway but Fareed Zakaria. So I went up to him and I said, introduced myself, and we ended up having a great 5-10 minute conversation about STEM education as we walked down the jetway. And then we got to the plane, and we were about to board the plane, and I'm like, sorry, Mr. Zakaria, I've got to wait here. My mom and wife are waiting to get on the plane with me. Like, they have to end our conversation, but it was awesome. That was cool.
Oh, and okay, so
I was really just I thought you were going to say Matthew McConaughey, just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I did get to rub elbows and play the part of celebrity along with Matthew McConaughey and Salma Hayek. We were treated as equals, as finalists, as the top 10 finalists in them. We were put in a green room together where it was just our families and them. My wife is very excited to meet Matthew McConaughey, who was wearing quite a bit of makeup. But she made sure that she got his, or her picture with just him. I happened to, while I was on stage, take a selfie with Salma Hayek, which I guess got caught on the international feed that was out there on the internet. That was my buddy from New Jersey said, "Hey, I saw you taking a picture with Salma Hayek." So I guess that's out there. But that was cool. But as someone said to me, like, "Oh, wasn't it cool to get to meet Matthew McConaughey?" And I said, "No. Like, we were the top 10 finalists. We were the ones that are up there on stage. He came to come see us. Like, it was awesome for him to get to meet us as teachers. And that's kind of the point, that the teaching profession needs to be seen as equal with, any other profession out there. And I think that Sunny Barkey and the Barkey Foundation really, are trying to do that and are doing a really good job, because the narrative about education is changing. On the front page of newspapers, it's starting to be the amazing stories of what teachers are doing rather than the nonsense. So.
As it should be. And I think that based on what he said, Matthew McConaughey, in his speech, he would agree with you.
Yeah.
He just really spoke of his mother being a kindergarten teacher and how much he felt that other teachers need to be elevated. So I think he would agree with you.
Yeah,
so,
I would hope so.
Last question, meeting the penguin.
Oh yeah, so that was totally unexpected. I had a little over a day to kind of see Dubai. So we got off the plane. Melissa Morris, who was a top 50 finalist from Staten Island, she and I flew over together a couple days before my wife and mother came, and we got off the plane and dropped off our bags, and we happened to be right next to one of the two. There's two of the three largest malls in the world are in Dubai. So this was the third largest mall, the Mall of the Emirates, and it was right next to the hotel I was staying at the first night. And so we went in there and we're like, okay, let's see what's cool here. And they have an indoor ski slope, literally a mountain built inside a mall where they
I knew that was there. Yeah.
Right. So we're like, all right, let's go check it out and go take a look and see if we can just kind of peek around. And we went in there and we couldn't get in without paying for something. So like, all right, what's the cheapest thing that we can do? And it was to meet a penguin. And we're like, oh, that's awesome. Let's do it. So we went in there, and first there was Genitou penguins, who you can't touch them because they haven't learned to be touched yet. But it was awesome. So we went in, they taught us all about the different penguins and, taught us things that we didn't know. And then you'd sit on these two seats, and in between was like an elevated platform. And the penguin's name was Shella. So the trainer would say, Shella, hop. And Shella would hop right up between us, pause for a picture, right, and then hop down and go get some fish. And then the next few people would come, and, So we did that first. And then we went to a different area where there was king penguins. And they're used to being touched. So the trainer, so you have to get down on one knee, so that you're on their level. And the penguin that we met, his name was Wally, because when he was not meeting people or being trained, he just goes over and stares at the wall. Like, he just literally just goes over there and just looks at the wall, like, out in outer space. So the trainer would call him over, and he stood on the stump, and then we went over, and you could touch. There's 4 different kinds of feathers. You could feel the oil from the preening gland in the back, and then the white feathers in the front. The yellow ear feathers are like the softest, and you could, touch them a little bit and feel them. And then they asked us if we wanted to give Wally a kiss afterwards. And Melissa was all about that, and I said, no, thanks. That's okay. Kissing a penguin, not up high on my list of things that I want to do in my life. So, but we got some really cool pictures, and we did. Melissa and I shot a couple of 5 clue challenge videos. One from JFK. 5 clues to see if you can figure out President Kennedy. We did a 5 clue challenge to see if you could figure out the animal that we met, the penguin. And then my wife and I did from the aquarium in Atlantis a 5 clue video to see if you could figure out the animal we were next to, and that was a lobster. And then we, of course, did one, where are we in Dubai.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah, well, got to turn everything into a learning experience. So.
As you should. And a teacher field trip to be part of those events.
Yep.
And I have to say, him being in one of the warmest spots on the planet, was in winter garb hanging out with a penguin. There's just something amazing about that.
Yeah, the whole trip was pretty amazing.
Well, I don't know, but I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aren't we lucky to know this guy? Yeah, I'm just saying.
Stop it. I'm just lucky to know you guys.
Well, last year we did the Dolly Parton conversation. This year we had Matthew McConaughey and Salma Hayek. What will next year bring?
Yeah.
All right, friends. Well, that's all the time we have for EdTech Chat and Chew. Don't forget to sign up for Awesome Squiggles. It's on our Facebook page. And that last day is on Friday the 25th. We'll have everyone published with your partners in the following week. So Good news coming soon. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.